Can you believe it? My father sold my apartment to my sister without asking my opinion. I found out through a brief text message. I sold the apartment to your sister. She needs it more. My heart stopped. How could this even happen? Follow my story, how I turned the tables and reclaimed what was rightfully mine. This unbelievable story happened 3 months ago. That day was just another ordinary workday. As usual, I left the office at 6 p.m., weaving through the busy Manhattan crowd, looking forward to a peaceful evening in my apartment. But when I opened the door, an unimaginable sight unfolded. My sister was there, not waiting for me at the door, not visiting. She was inside my home, completely at ease as if it were hers. I frowned, my heart pounding. How did you get in here? She looked at me calmly as if I were the intruder. Why are you asking? This is my place. I froze. What? Dad already transferred the ownership. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I pulled out my phone and immediately called my father. But he didn't pick up. 30 seconds. A minute. 5 minutes. No callback. Just a single text message. I sold the apartment to your sister. She needs it more. I stared at the screen. My fists clenched so tightly that my nails dug into my palms. I sold it. As if it was his property and I hadn't poured every penny and ounce of effort into earning it. To your sister. Without asking me, without even caring what I thought. It is an entirely unilateral decision. She needs it more. That was the most absurd part. Did she need it more? And what about me? Didn't I need a place to live? Did my father think I could give up my dream just because I had a stable job, My heartbeat thundered in my ears. This wasn't a joke. My father had sold my apartment without even consulting me. How could this happen? Without hesitation, I grabbed my phone and dialed his number. The ringtone echoed. No answer. I tried again. A second time. Still nothing. A third time, a fourth, a fifth. By the 10th call, I was nearly losing my mind. Why wasn't he picking up? My grip on the phone tightened, the plastic creaking under the pressure. He knew I would call. He was deliberately avoiding me. My breaths came fast and shallow. Anger surged through me, fiercer than ever. I couldn't just sit still. I grabbed my car keys, got in, and started the engine. I would confront him in person if he wouldn't answer the phone. On the way there, old memories crashed over me like a tidal wave, pulling me back to a childhood filled with unfairness. Since I was little, my father had always favored my sister, Victoria, and I knew it. It wasn't something I imagined or overreacted to. It was present in every moment of my life. I had just ignored it for too long. I remember my birthday when I was 7. My mom bought me the Barbie doll I had been dreaming of for months. When I opened the box, my father snatched it away and handed it to Victoria before I could play with it. She's older. You should let her have it. But wasn't it supposed to be the other way around? Shouldn't an older sister be the one to share with her younger sibling? Why was it always me who had to give things up? I cried. I protested. But my father ignored me. Victoria smirked, clutching the doll as if it had always belonged to her. When I was 10, I got a pink scooter I adored. I spent the entire summer practicing, learning to ride it smoothly. Then one day, I came home from school, and it was gone. Where's my scooter? I asked. I gave it to Victoria, my father said matter-of-factly. She needs it more. I was stunned. Needed it more? How could someone need their younger sibling's scooter more than the person it belonged to? At 16, I spent my entire summer working at a coffee shop to buy myself a bike. My first ever self-bought gift. My first taste of freedom. But less than a week later, I came home and saw my sister riding it. What's going on? My voice shook with anger as I turned to my father. She needs it to get to school. Let her have it. That same sentence. Over and over again. I still remembered the bitterness of watching Victoria pedal away on my bike as if it had always been hers. When I objected, my father snapped, calling me selfish. Like wanting to keep my belongings was wrong. Through it all, only my mother ever tried to comfort me. She never dared to argue with my father, but she would quietly buy me something to make up for it. When my father took away the first phone I ever bought for myself, she secretly gave me money to replace it. But I never wanted a replacement, I wanted fairness. And now, at 28, nothing had changed. Only this time, my father didn't take away a toy. He didn't take a scooter, a bike, or a phone. He took me home. But this time, I wouldn't stay silent. 30 minutes later, I arrived home. I pushed the door open, my heart pounding, my breath quick and shallow with anger. The living room looked the same, eerily peaceful as if nothing had happened. My father sat in his armchair, a cup of tea in one hand, casually flipping through a newspaper. No guilt, no remorse, not even the slightest hint of concern. My fists clenched, heat rising in my chest. "You can't do this," I nearly shouted, my voice shaking with rage. "That apartment belongs to me." My father calmly set his teacup down and glanced at me, his expression indifferent, as if I was overreacting. "My name is still on the papers," he said slowly, deliberately. "I had the right to do it." I froze. Was this real? I stared at him, my mind spinning. "What right?" I tightened my fists, trying to contain my fury. "Do you even remember who paid for that apartment? Who covered every single payment, month after month, without missing a cent?" He shrugged, leaning back in his chair, completely unfazed. "So what?" he said flatly. "My name was still on the documents. That means I had the final say." Anger surged through me, so intensely that I could barely control it. "You can't just sell my apartment because your name is on some paper," I shouted. "That was my hard work, my sweat, my sacrifice. I worked tirelessly for it." My father let out a dismissive chuckle as if my words meant nothing. "Don't be so dramatic," he said, reaching for his newspaper. "It's done." I stood there, staring at him, the man I was supposed to trust, watching him steal the most significant achievement of my life as if it were nothing more than a trivial object. Before I could say another word, a voice rang out from behind me. "Enough!" I turned around. My mother was standing there. She had seen everything. No more silence. No more enduring. Her face was filled with fury, her eyes red with years of pent-up disappointment. She stepped forward, her voice trembling but resolute. "Do you think you have the right to do this? Just because your name is on some paper, you think you can take away everything she worked so hard for?" My father scoffed, crossing his arms. "I had the right. I was a co-owner." "No, you were not," my mother shot back. "You only signed your name to help her buy it, but she paid for every cent every month on her own. You never contributed a single dollar. Do you even know how many hours a day she worked? How hard she struggled?" My father remained indifferent, as if her words weren't worth acknowledging. My mother shuddered as though she could no longer recognize the man before her. "You've mistreated her for years." Her voice grew louder. "Always favoring Victoria, always taking from her and giving to her sister. I've stayed silent for too long. But not this time." My father frowned, but my mother wasn't finished. "Since she was a child, you've always put Victoria first. You took her toys, bike, and even the phone she had bought with her money. And now you can take her home? No, I won't allow it." She turned to me, tears spilling down her face. "This time, I'm standing with you. If you and Victoria don't return this apartment immediately," she paused, taking a deep breath, "then I will divorce you, and I will disown Victoria." A suffocating silence filled the room. I had never heard my mother speak so firmly before. My father let out a cold laugh. "Then divorce me." He grabbed his car keys and walked out without a second glance. The door slammed shut behind him, echoing like a final blow. My mother and I were left alone. Neither of us spoke. We just held each other and cried. My mother and I sat in silence, our minds in turmoil. My father was gone. My sister had taken over the apartment. Felt like everything was against me. Then my phone rang. An unknown number. I hesitated for a few seconds before answering. "Hello? This is from the finance company. We just received a request to transfer ownership of your apartment." My grip on the phone tightened, my chest constricting. "Transfer," I repeated, emphasizing each syllable. "There seems to be an issue here. I need to meet in person to clarify this." There was a brief pause before the agent replied. "We also noticed some irregularities. Can you come to our office tomorrow morning? We'll have all the documents related to the loan and ownership ready for review." I didn't hesitate for even a second. "I'll be there." I hung up and turned to my mother. She was watching me, her eyes filled with both worry and determination. She reached for my hand and gave it a firm squeeze. "This time, I'm standing with you." My mother and I arrived at the finance company's office at 9 a.m. the following day. The place was sleek and professional, with leather chairs and coffee lingering in the air. But nothing about it felt comforting. I was here to take back what was mine. A middle-aged man in a suit approached us, holding a folder. The nameplate on the desk read, Michael Carter, Finance Director. Thank you for coming, he said, shaking my hand. His sharp eyes suggested he already understood the situation. Please have a seat. My mother and I sat down as he slid a folder toward me. We've reviewed the transfer request submitted by your father, he began, his voice steady. And there is a serious issue. I opened the file and scanned the documents. This apartment still has an outstanding loan, which means the transfer cannot proceed. I frowned. So, the transfer isn't legal? Michael nodded. That's correct. Under the mortgage agreement, the property cannot be transferred while the loan is still active, unless the person making payments consents. And according to our records, that person is you, not your father. A spark of hope ignited inside me. So that means the apartment is still mine? Exactly, Michael confirmed. Your father had no right to sell it without your approval. If you'd like, we can freeze any transactions related to this apartment immediately to prevent unauthorized transfers. For the first time in days, I smiled. Do it. Michael nodded, signing a few documents before looking up at me thoughtfully. However, there's something else you need to know. I tensed as unease crept into my mind. Michael slid another file toward me. While reviewing your loan records, we discovered something unusual. I flipped through the pages, eyes scanning the bolded numbers and legal text. And then I froze. Loan amount, $20,000 primary borrower. Sophia Carter cosigner. Richard Carter, my father's name. Date issued. For months ago, I had never taken out this loan. My eyes widened, my voice barely a whisper. What is this? Michael sighed, adjusting his glasses. According to our records, this loan is under your name, with your father as the cosigner. Because his name was on the property documents, the bank approved the loan with your apartment as collateral. Shock coursed through me. Are you saying my father used my apartment as collateral for a loan? Michael nodded slowly. That's correct. But, more importantly, the contract states that you are responsible for repaying the debt. The room spun around me. No way. I shook my head. I never signed anything. Michael pushed the final page of the contract toward me. My signature was right there, but it wasn't mine. My mother let out a sharp gasp, clutching my hand as if to keep me from collapsing. He forged your signature? She whispered, her voice trembling. I couldn't even speak. My father hadn't just tried to steal my apartment. He had made me responsible for a $20,000 loan I had never agreed to. Michael gave me a sympathetic look. If you'd like, we can report this as identity fraud and open an official investigation immediately. I clenched my fists. My father had thought I'd never find out. He was wrong. And now, should I press charges against my father? The question echoed in my mind, cutting like a blade. I knew this was a fraud. I had all the evidence I needed to take him to court. But he was still my father. My mother gently touched my shoulder, pulling me from my thoughts. Let's go home first. Talk to him. Her voice was low, steady. No matter what, he's still family. Let's try that if there's another way to handle this first. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I decided to listen to her. When I got home, my father was there. After disappearing for a night, he returned as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just destroyed his own daughter's life. He sat in his armchair, remote in hand, casually flipping through TV channels as if we were nothing more than unwelcome guests interrupting his relaxing evening. I couldn't take it anymore. Did you take out a $20,000 loan under my name? My voice was ice cold. He didn't even look up, just shrugged. So what? My fists clenched. So what? I repeated, enunciating every word. You forged my signature. You made me responsible for a debt I never agreed to. Do you even understand what that means? This time he finally turned to look at me, but instead of guilt, there was only a smirk. I raised you, didn't I? What's $20,000 to your father? His words slapped me harder than any physical blow ever could. I had worked tirelessly, never asked for help, and stood on my own feet to earn that apartment. And now my father was acting like I owed him? Rage flared inside me. Give it to you? I growled, my eyes burning. You took it from me without asking. You lied to me. That's not giving. That's stealing. He slammed his hand on the table, his face red with anger. You dare speak to your father like that? He shot up from his chair, stepping toward me as if ready to lash out. My heart pounded, but I didn't back down. Take one more step, I said, voice steady, and I'll call the police. Right now. My mother rushed between us, throwing her arms out to stop him. Enough! She cried, her voice breaking with pain. Do you even realize what you're doing? This is your daughter. My father froze. His eyes burned with fury, but he didn't say a word. I took a deep breath and met his gaze, unflinching. I'm giving you 1 week, I said, my voice unwavering. 1 week for you and Victoria to fix this. Either you return my apartment, or I'll take you both to court. A heavy silence fell over the room. My mother turned to me, her expression resolute. She nodded in agreement. I knew this time she was standing by my side until the very end. I knew my father wouldn't believe I'd go through with it. He thought I was making empty threats in a fit of anger. But he was wrong. That afternoon, I called Nathan, a friend and attorney specializing in real estate and finance. We arranged to meet at his office immediately. 2 hours later, I left Nathan's office with a solid plan. Sophia, if your father refuses to cooperate, I guarantee we can take this to court, Nathan said, his gaze sharp and unwavering. But before that, we'll send an official legal notice. A letter was delivered straight into my father's hands the following day. He couldn't ignore it. He couldn't toss it in the trash like an annoying text message. I knew that because I had specifically requested it be sent via certified mail, requiring his signature upon receipt. Inside was a formal ultimatum, professionally drafted and stamped with the seal of my lawyer's office. Legal notice recipient: Richard Carter sender. Sophia Carter, represented by legal counsel Nathan Reynolds, ESQ. Dear Mr. Richard Carter, this is an official notice regarding the apartment at 1425 Westbrook Avenue, Manhattan, New York, 10027. The current mortgage agreement prohibits ownership transfer without the legal payer's consent. Since I am the sole individual responsible for the loan, your attempt to sell the property constitutes a breach of financial contract and may be considered fraudulent. Your unauthorized use of my identity to obtain a $20,000 loan without my consent qualifies as identity fraud, a criminal offense subject to prosecution. I formally demand that you and Victoria vacate the apartment within 7 days from the date of receipt of this letter. If you fail to comply, I will take the following actions. File a financial fraud complaint with the appropriate authorities. Initiate legal proceedings to remove your name entirely from the property ownership. Notify the financial institution to enforce legal measures accordingly. This is not an empty warning. I prefer to resolve this matter amicably, but if you refuse to cooperate, I will not hesitate to pursue every legal action necessary. I strongly advise you to think carefully. Sincerely, Sophia Carter. After sending the legal notice to my father, I drove straight to my apartment. My heart pounded as I stood before the door I shouldn't even have to knock on. I paused for a second, took a deep breath, then knocked firmly. Seconds later, the door swung open. Victoria stood there, arms crossed, her expression smug. "Why are you here?" she asked, her tone dripping with defiance. I had no patience left. "You have 2 choices. Leave alone or watch the police appear." My voice was calm, deliberate. Victoria scoffed, her eyes filled with mockery. "You wouldn't dare." I smirked and shrugged. Then, I pulled a piece of paper from my bag, the legal notice I had sent to my father. Slowly, deliberately, I unfolded it right in front of Victoria, turning the pages one by one so she could see the red attorney's seal, the cold, precise legal language, and the undeniable consequences. "You think so?" I locked eyes with her. "Dad got this letter this morning. If you still think this is a joke, you might want to read it carefully before you laugh again." Her gaze flickered downward, scanning the document. I saw her hand tighten slightly. The confidence on her face started to crack. "I don't believe you." Her voice was quieter now, but she still tried to sound harsh. I folded the letter, pulled out my phone, scrolled to Nathan's number, and held it up for her to see. "Believe what you want, but if you're still sitting here next week, my lawyer will handle it. And the police will be right behind him." The smugness vanished. Only heavy silence remained. I didn't want to go back to my mother's house. I didn't want to be surrounded by the suffocating tension of a family falling apart. So I called a friend and asked if I could stay with her for a few days. "Are you okay?" Emily, my best friend, asked as she opened the door. I forced a smile, unsure how to respond. "I don't know yet," I sighed, "but I will be." That night, my phone rang. A name I didn't want to see flashed across the screen. My father was calling. I picked up the phone, hesitated for a second, then declined the call. Less than a minute later, the first message arrived. "Are you going to take this that far?" My father asked. I thought for the first time he might be scared. I didn't reply. Another message followed immediately. "You'll lose your family if you do this." I gripped my phone tighter, exhaustion burning in my eyes. Finally, I typed out a simple response. "You lost me the moment you decided to sell my home." Without waiting for a reply, I powered off my phone and set it face down on the table. I pulled the blanket over my head. Tonight, I just needed to rest. The following day, as soon as I turned on my phone, the screen lit up with missed calls. But it wasn't just my father, my uncle, my aunt, even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Then I opened my messages. A storm of angry texts came crashing down. "What kind of child takes their father to court? How could you treat your family like this? Ungrateful brat. Victoria was right. You're selfish and only think about yourself." I squinted at the screen, my heart pounding with anger. I kept scrolling past the barrage of insults, my fingers tightening around the phone. But then I stopped. A familiar name. Jake, my younger cousin. "Hey, what's going on?" Unlike the others, there was no accusation, no hostility, just confusion. I immediately typed back. "What do you mean? What's happening? You haven't seen it? Victoria posted about you on Facebook." My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook, scrolled quickly through my feed, and then I saw it. A public post from Victoria, visible to all our relatives and friends. My hands tightened around my phone as I read Victoria's post. She had twisted everything and lied so effortlessly. And worst of all, she had made me the villain. I took a slow, deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate attack. I stared at the comments flooding in beneath her post. Relatives, family friends, even people I barely knew, rushing to her defense and calling me selfish, ungrateful, heartless. They had no idea what happened. And Victoria knew that. I exhaled sharply. Fine. If she wanted to play this game, I would show her that I wasn't someone she could walk over anymore. My grip tightened around my phone. Every word in Victoria's post twisted the truth so perfectly. She had painted me as the heartless traitor while she and my father played the roles of helpless victims. And the worst part? People believed her. Hundreds of comments flooded beneath the post. "Oh my God! How could your sister do this? Family is everything. What the hell is she thinking? Poor Mr. Richard. Having a daughter like that must be heartbreaking." They didn't know the truth, but they were about to. I couldn't let them twist the truth for even one more second. So, I asked my mother to arrange a family meeting that afternoon to protect Dad and Victoria from me. I wanted our relatives to believe this was a gathering to condemn me, to stand up for the helpless victims Victoria had painted online. And without hesitation, they all showed up. 5 p.m. The living room was packed. Uncles, aunts, cousins. Every single one of them had shown up, their faces twisted in anger and contempt. My father sat in the center, arms crossed, his expression smug. Victoria leaned back in her chair, absent-mindedly running a hand through her perfectly styled hair, waiting for what she thought would be my public humiliation. My mother stood off to the side, looking anxious, but no one knew what she was hiding. Then the door opened. I stepped in, and I wasn't alone. My lawyer, Nathan, walked in right behind me, carrying a thick stack of legal documents. The room fell into a dead silence. I locked eyes with my father. Then Victoria. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice calm but ice cold. "I think it's time we talk about the truth." My father clenched his jaw. Victoria went pale, but I didn't give them a chance to speak. Nathan opened the folder and pulled out the first set of documents. "This is the official mortgage agreement," he announced. "According to this document, Sophia Carter is the sole payer of the loan, which means..." He turned to my father, staring him down. Richard Carter had no legal right to sell this apartment. A wave of murmurs swept through the room. I glanced around at my relatives, watching confusion flicker across their faces. But we weren't done yet. Nathan flipped to another document and placed it on the table. "And this," he continued, "proves that Richard Carter used Sophia Carter's identity to secure a $20,000 loan, without her knowledge or consent." A heavy silence fell over the room. I scanned the faces around me, watching as their expressions shifted. The anger that had been directed at me, I was now turning toward my father and Victoria. "Is this true?" one of my aunts asked, her voice uncertain. "Richard, what the hell is going on?" My uncle frowned, glaring at my father. Victoria's breath hitched. She stammered, her voice shaking. It's not like that." But I wasn't about to let her spin another lie. I turned to my mother. "Mom, you saw everything. Tell them." She took a deep breath, then stepped forward. "Everything Sophia said is the truth." Her voice was firm, unwavering. "I've kept quiet for too long, but today, I refuse to stay silent any longer." After my mother's words, the room erupted into chaos. The same relatives who had attacked me yesterday were now turning against my father and Victoria. "This is beyond unacceptable," my uncle snapped. "Selling your daughter's home without even asking her?" Aunt Anna shook her head in disgust. "And forging her signature for a loan? That's illegal," my cousin Jake added, his voice laced with disbelief. I stood silently, watching and waiting for the right moment to end this once and for all. When the noise finally settled, I stepped forward, locking eyes with my father and Victoria. "I don't need an apology. I don't need pity." My voice was sharp, unwavering. "I only need my apartment back, and I need the $20,000 loan to be paid in full." Then I placed another stack of documents on the table. "You have exactly 3 days." I met their gaze, steady and unrelenting. My father clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white, but he had nothing to say. Victoria bit her lip, her eyes red and glassy. 3 days to return everything, and a public correction post online, clear, direct, and honest. I turned to Victoria, my voice now devoid of any warmth. "You dragged my name through the mud before our entire family. You will fix it." I stood tall. No fear, no hesitation. "If nothing changes in 3 days, I will sue." No one spoke. My mother nodded in silent support. My relatives sat in uneasy stillness. And my father? He just sat there, face dark with anger. They had only one choice left: comply with my demands or face the law. 2 days later, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, an unknown number. But this time, I knew exactly what I was waiting for. "Hello, Ms. Sophia. I'm calling from the finance company." The representative's familiar voice came through. "I wanted to inform you that the $20,000 loan under your name has been fully paid off this morning." I raised an eyebrow. "The loan has been cleared?" I repeated as if to make sure I hadn't misheard. "That's correct. Additionally, we received a request from Mr. Richard Carter to cancel your apartment transfer to Victoria Carter. The necessary paperwork has been completed, and the property is officially restored to its rightful legal owner, you." I had no idea where he got the money. Maybe he borrowed it. Maybe he had to sell something valuable. But I didn't care. "Thank you for the update," I replied, calm and steady. That afternoon, I received a text from Victoria. "I posted the correction on Facebook. Everyone has seen it. I know you don't trust me, but this time, I mean it. I'm leaving. Come get the keys." I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I opened Facebook, and just as she said, a new post was there for everyone to see. I read the post slowly, taking in every word. It wasn't heartfelt. It wasn't emotional. It was cold, calculated, written like a forced public statement rather than a genuine apology. But it didn't matter. The truth was out there now. The damage she tried to inflict on me had been undone. I exhaled, feeling the weight on my chest finally begin to lift. This chapter was closing, and this time on my terms. I smirked. This wasn't an apology born from guilt. It was born from necessity. But in the end, it didn't matter. I had gotten exactly what I wanted. I typed a short reply. "I'll come get the keys now." My apartment was mine again, and this time no one could take it from me. 3 days later, it was over. The apartment was officially mine again. The $20,000 loan had been paid off. Victoria left without a word. I thought that was the end of it. But then my phone rang. The name on the screen was unmistakable. I stared at it for a few seconds, debating whether to answer. In the end, I picked up. His voice was low, more exhausted than I had ever heard before. "Are you satisfied now?" I let out a quiet, emotionless laugh. "You think this was about satisfaction?" I said. "No, Dad. This was about justice. And about a lesson. There was silence on the other end. I took a deep breath and spoke my final words to him. Never think you can take anything from me without consequences. Then I hung up. After that call, my father and I never spoke again. Not long after, my mother decided to file for divorce. I've endured enough, she said as she packed her bags. I let him hurt you too many times, and I can't forgive that. She moved in with me. The heavy, suffocating days were finally over. Every morning, I wake up in my apartment, living free from lies and the fear of betrayal. 3 months have passed. My mother and I cherish every small, meaningful moment together. No more injustice, no more pain. I fought for what was rightfully mine. I took back what belonged to me. But there's one question I keep asking myself. Was I right to do this to my father? To my sister? If it were you, what would you have done? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear from you. And if you found this story thought-provoking, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Thank you for following my journey. See you in the next one.